Hello there, Swahili Nation family. Welcome back to another recap. I am Wangel Zalalem, and today I bring to you stories from Africa. Chinese man gets 20 years in Rwanda for whipping a local man. A court in Rwanda sentenced a Chinese businessman to 20 years in prison for torture after he was filmed beating a local man last year. Sun Shujun had been accused of beating his workers in a case that drew attention because he was filmed whipping a man tethered to a pole on the ground. This video actually went viral last year and everybody was talking about it. Unfortunately, I can't show you here because of, YouTube, and we don't want to offend the algorithm. But you can Google and find that clip. It's a 3-minute clip where the Chinese man has tied the man to a pole and he's beating him with a whip, like whipping him. And people were pissed. There was a huge outrage and backlash. So the Rwandese police arrested him, and now the court has sentenced him to 20 years in prison, which makes us really happy because if you do the crime, you must do the time. Like, foreigners sometimes get, if we're being honest, get a better deal or a better jail time than locals, and that shouldn't be the case because if foreigners are committing crimes in our continent, we need to be able to be protected. Imagine if a Rwandese or a Kenyan or a Nigerian did the same thing in China. You think they will be left alone or they'll just get deported and nothing will happen to them? No, that's not going to happen because the government takes it seriously. So I love the fact that Rwanda took it seriously and they are actually sentencing him to 20 years in prison and then probably he'll get deported, which is a great thing. Usually that's not what happens, nothing happens to that person, or worse comes, they'll be deported. And I don't agree with that. Like, if you committed the crime in that country, you need to face the justice system in that same country, and then after you're done serving your time, you can go ahead and go back to the country you're coming from. So I love what Rwanda has done here. The British troops lose fight for diplomatic immunity over Kenya fire. The British Army has lost diplomatic immunity on lawsuits over 10,000 acres of bushfire in Nanyuki that was set by its soldiers who were allegedly drugged. It's the audacity for me. Like, they were trying to go for diplomatic immunity when they set fire to Kenya's land. The people lost their livelihoods. The wildlife lost their habitat. Basically, they were kicked out if they were not burned. So this fire, by the way, when it first came out last year, the British were denying this. They were saying we had nothing to do with it. And then a foolish British soldier put it on his Snapchat and showed the whole world that they actually did it. For him, he was boasting. He was talking about it like they did something great. He wrote something like, we killed elephants, we burnt a forest, and now we're going back home. Something like that. I'll try to put up the picture for you here. And after that went viral, now they can't lie because their own troop came out and claimed it without meaning to, just because he's foolish. So after that, they had to come out and say, we're investigating. And then they said, it's an accident. So yeah, which one is it? You didn't do it. It was an accident. Tell us which one it is. But the good thing is the courts have decided, no, you cannot claim diplomatic immunity and you have to be tried. And that is a good news for Kenyans that lost their, farms, that lost their houses, and for the wildlife that had to lose their home. This is going to be good for them because now, if found guilty, which we know they are going to pay a lot of money, which is good for the people that have been victims to this fire. Moi Kibaki, who served as Kenya's third president from 2003 to 2013, has died aged 90. From what I hear, Moi Kibaki was a wise man as well as funny, and Kenyans really talk about him in a good light. And it's sad that we have to talk about him after he passed, but it's also good to give flowers to a leader that is doing his thing. We usually criticize the leaders that are not doing well, and yes, we should continue doing that, but we also should not forget to give applause to the ones that are doing their thing and, you know, picking up their country's economy and trying their best to be good leaders. So we would like to say rest in peace, Moi Kibaki. Central African Republic adopts Bitcoin as a legal tender to get out of the CFA franc. In a move considered a crackdown on the France-based currency, the CFA franc, Central African Republic has officially adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender, a qualified means of payment for goods, services, and other transactions in the country. What makes me happy for Central African Republic is the fact that they've decided to detach from franc that is associated with France. It is insane to imagine that the Western African countries, as well as some Central African countries, are still, you know, using the franc that is associated with France. Even after coming up with the new currency, they still made a deal with France, and a lot of people were sad about that decision because people were hoping that they can finally cut ties with France when it comes to at least their currency so that they can grow their economies. But somehow, some way, always, like, France has a way like bringing them back in, and we find it really unfortunate. But to see Central African Republic finally making the move really is exciting. We don't know what it means, you know, as a government to use Bitcoin and to move to that. The physics of it, how will it go, and how is it going to impact the economy? We don't know that, but what we know for sure is them cutting ties with franc is really going to help them out tremendously, and I hope that Bitcoin is going to be the solution for Central African Republic as well as any other country that wants to no longer be attached to France when it comes to their currency. Mali accuses France of spying after video emerged of mass grave. Malian authorities have accused the French army of spying and subversion when they used a drone to film what France alleged were mercenaries burying bodies near a military base. The drone flew illegally over the Gossi base on April 20, the day after French forces handed the site back to Mali. It's really not looking good, and the relationship between Mali and France is just getting worse and worse and worse. And to be honest with you, I don't understand why France can't let them go. If a country wants you to respect their sovereignty and they no longer want your troops to be there and they don't want nothing to do with you when it comes to your influence, you respect that. Like, that's diplomacy. That's what politics is about. And the fact that France is not respecting that and is even making it worse after they were told leave, after they left, the next day is when they were flying drones and filming the military base, which is not right, which is not correct. Like, it's illegal. This is between two countries that we're talking about. There are international laws that they need to respect, but somehow when it comes to, you know, African countries saying no to certain things and, you know, having some boundaries, it's never respected. But just imagine if this happened the other way around and Malian forces flew a drone in France military base where they're not allowed to, they didn't ask for permission. What would happen then? Do you think France would just sit down and say, no problem, you know, it's okay, they only did something that they're not supposed to, like, we let it slide? No, they will not do that. They will label them terrorists. They will make sure that the UN Security Council investigates it and they get sanctions. Like, this is a huge deal, but somehow, you know, they get away with it because they're France. It's just so unfair, but I'm happy that Mali keeps exposing them and they keep speaking up, which is a great thing for other African countries to follow. Anyway, Swahili Nation family, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.